Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 27th of February 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We've got one main story, ladies and gentlemen, today, unlike the other days where we handle more than one stories in a major manner. This time, our major story is the 5th anniversary of Operation Swift Retort that is being commemorated today to pay not only tribute to the valiant armed forces of Pakistan for demonstrating their resilience and the resolve against the Indian attempt to carry out a misadventure, but to also continue to highlight the role that has been played by our Air Force, by our other forces, in order to thwart all enemy attempts to destabilize our country or to show or to give a negative impression of what Pakistan stands for. Pakistan has always held its head high when it comes to any such attempt by our not so friendly neighbors, and that is where the credit needs to be given to our armed forces, whether it be the Air Force, whether it be Pakistan Army, or whether it be the Pakistan Navy. But today we are going to commemorate Pakistan Air Force and their valiant resolve to thwart the attempts by the enemy on this very day through an action just to symbolize the effectiveness of Pakistan Air Force. This happened a couple of years back, and today we are celebrating and observing the day as a polite reminder, not only for ourselves, but also for all those who might have a little inkling that they can get away with anything if they try. We have an example in front of us in the form of Operation Swift Retort, and that is how we can show to the world that Pakistan is beyond no other force when it comes to defending its motherland. We've been joined by three important guests. One is in the studios and two will be joining us off and on during the course of the show. But we also have two small stories before we go to our major one. The first is Gaza truce that could likely come as far as the holy month of Ramadan is concerned. This has been said by no one other than the US President Joe Biden, who said on Monday he hopes to have a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza start by next Monday. Now he has given a date as well, that is next Monday, as both the parties appear to close on a deal during negotiations in Qatar. Whether that happens or not is another question altogether, but the statement is important. Finally, Hungary has now removed the last hurdle for Sweden's NATO membership. The Hungarian parliament approved Sweden's NATO accession also on Monday, clearing the last hurdle before the historic step by this Nordic country, whose neutrality lasted through 2 world wars and the simmering conflict of the Cold War. Now it's no longer neutral because it will be part of the NATO. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the anniversary of Operation Swift Retort. We've been joined by three guests. Let me introduce them one by one. We'll introduce, in fact, two guests, and the third guest will come a little bit later in the show. In the studios, we've been joined by Air Marshal retired Masood Akhtar Saab. He's a defense analyst. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us and to have come all the way to the studios. We've also been joined by Air Marshal retired Aamir Masood Saab. He's a defense analyst and he joins us online. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. And of course to be part of this important show. We'll also be joined by Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab. He's a defense analyst a bit later during the course of the show. Let's begin with you, Masood Akhtar Sahab. In your point of view, you know, a lot of people commemorate different days, whether it be our Independence Day or other days. What, in your point of view, is the significance of observing today, that is the day of Operation Swift Retort? Secondly, I'd like to understand, a couple of years have passed since this Operation Swift Retort happened. How has our Air Force evolved? If I were to ask a general question over the last 70 plus years, vis-a-vis our not so friendly neighborhoods Air Force?
Thank you very much. First of all, Assalamu alaikum to our guest in Lahore. Aamir Masood is a great friend, a great professional, came much later, and like I will say later on also, the Air Force is in safer hands than what we were, and it is doing even better, and it will secure the nation. Coming to your first question, how significant? Extremely. There were 2 red letter days, one before this. The first one was 1st of September 65, when late Rafiqi, Shaheed, and Imtiaz Bhatti, they shot 4 vampires, and before the war, they excluded an entire force of around 50 Oregons and vampires out of the war. They were taken out of the battle. That was the first one. That gave us a lot of pride and joy. That time, of course, I had not joined the Air Force. I was a pre-cadet at that time. Second one was, of course, 27th February. This was again a red letter day because single service application and achieved all the political and military ends, is re-established political deterrence and military deterrence just in a matter of a minute. But the thing that our viewers must understand is the Chief of Air Staff, he gave a very smart strategy. He said, this skirmish with the Indian Air Force and response to Pulwama and the attack at Balakot should be calibrated, number one, should be proportionate, number two, graduated, number three. And the reason he was cognizant that had we shot anything more than 2 more aeroplanes, because I can assure you, I retired something in 2006. Air Marshal Aamir will know more about it because he was in service at that time. There were at least 3 to 4 more F-16 that had locked up targets. Oh. Had they fired their BVRs, the escalation ladder could have gone out of control because the Indians would have been forced to retaliate, maybe. And then we counter-retaliate and the escalation goes out of everybody's control. And 2 nuclear powers cannot afford to do that.
I understand.
So this was huge by Air Chief Marshal Mujahid Anwar and by the government of Pakistan. So we managed not only to give an effective single service response, we managed to establish the political deterrence, the military deterrence, and also avoid a further conflagration of conflict. So this was a huge achievement, and I think we take pride and joy in this.
It was indeed a huge achievement, and of course a source of pride and joy, not only for Pakistanis but also for our forces as well. How did the PAF pull an operation such as the Swift Retort against an adversary like India? You talked about the complications or the eventualities that could have been the case, but of course the Pakistan Air Force showed maturity, and the intent was to make our adversary understand that we are an air force or an armed force with a might like none other. But could you give us a bit more detail on how did the Operation Swift Retort actually take place?
Please remember that they are worth about 32 to 33 fighter squadrons, combat units. They've been sanctioned 45. This happened after 62 war. Nehru, he authorized that this air force is going to be worth 45 squadrons. For various reasons, they could not do that, for funds were not available. Ours has hovered around 18, 20, 21. So we are definitely half the size of what the Indians are. So despite that, we have an advantage because now the war was localized to Kashmir. Please understand, under the nuclear hangover, the powers that be will not allow a full-fledged 20 days war all along the border because we could go nuclear. And this has happened twice, thrice. So in case they were to push in, and General Raza, when he comes, he will answer that question. 2 biggest corps, we can also take 2 corps. There is limited airspace and space on ground. If they take, let's say, their 5 of the best fighter squadrons there, we will also take 5 of the best. So we have parity over there. The only thing that made the difference was that, number one, we were expecting this attack. Our combat air patrols were up in the air on the morning of 26th when the Indians attacked. They generated a spurious track towards Lahore and Muridke. So some of our combat air patrols were vectored towards that. So by the time we found the main attack coming across Muzaffarabad and Balakot, when we vectored our caps towards this direction, that is when they quickly changed direction, made the border, and they lobbed their weapons, and obviously they did not kill anyone. You will have a question on this to me and to General Raza also. And they just pushed back and I wouldn't say ran away, but they were not effective enough. Now, my information is, and of course Air Marshal Aamir can throw more light on this, when this happened, before that, once the Pulwama had taken place, the air chief, my information, I had retired, is that the air chief went to the Prime Minister and said that in case that the Indians were to attack us by air, give us the permission to retaliate immediately. This sanction, I believe, was given. But it was used with caution, because the moment attack took place, of course, they were very tense moments. Some of them, Air Marshal Aamir will know, because he was part of the air staff at that time. And once the decision was made, please remember, they attacked as per by the book at dawn, first light. Air Chief Marshal Mujahid Anwar went totally unconventional. On the day of the attack at Balakot, there was a wall of combat air patrols, because the Prime Minister had gone verbal on television to say that please don't make this mistake. You attack, we will not think, we will retaliate. So when this happened, they had put up a wall of combat air patrols all across the border. So Mujahid Anwar decided not to attack, especially because there were no casualties on the ground. So next day, they went and attacked at what time? 10 o'clock, broad open daylight. They had their combat air patrol. There were Mirages in the air, Mirage 2000. There were Sukhois in the air. They scrambled this 51 squadron in which Abhinandan was shot down. And there were other aeroplanes. But obviously, we had also inducted electronic warfare. We have a very small element, which Aamir has commanded that base also, which contained. They have a huge EW element to support them. But we used it well. Doctrinally, I make a humble claim. Doctrinally, we may have been smarter. So when the attack went in, they could not talk to one another. They could not engage us. And whereas we had smart people like Noman and Siddiqui. So Noman took out the MiG-21, Siddiqui took out the Sukhoi 30, for which we have electronic proof, because the wreckage was across the border. And now that the day had been saved, they chose not to retaliate. And please remember, Indian Air Chief had said, look, we can operate while staying below the nuclear threshold. No, you can't do that. So they have learnt a lesson that in the air power, Pakistani air power will take them on, but they did not counter retaliate to our attack, which was very precise at Nowshera, at Rajouri, and reportedly at one place there was a 3-star general sitting at that headquarters. And once the attack went in precisely, with lot of precision, with locally developed weapons, with the JF-17s, it was so precise that once the cursor or the paper was shifted, it just went about 2 kilometers to one side. Otherwise, we could have taken out the headquarters. And now Indians had no choice not to retaliate in the air. And very fortunate for the world, they decided, but still to put us under pressure, they decided to threaten us with, of course, missile attacks, and to which the government of Pakistan say, you launch 10, we will launch 12. So I think the Air Force saved the day, and we take a lot of pride in that as an sky blue warrior.
Let's talk a little bit about the claims that were made by India. One of those claims was by Abhinandan that he had shot an F-16. It was tom-tommed at that time by the Indian media a lot. It still is. Even today, if you look, if you tune into the Indian media, they're again talking of those same claims. A whole film was made around Abhinandan's success, quote unquote, in this operation. Could you shed some light on his claim of shooting down an F-16?
Very interesting. And I think your viewers must know this every year, that Abhinandan never made that claim. Because to save face, the Indian Air Force and the political hierarchy, they laid a claim that they had shot an F-16. that before he was shot, he was managed to poop off one of his BVRs, beyond visual range missiles, and got an F-16. Not true at all, because Americans have confirmed that we did not lose a single F-16. Number two, all 4 missiles, 2 BVRs, beyond visual range, and 2 IR, short range missiles, they were in the wreckage, and they are placed in the Air Museum in Faisal. Number 3, once our defense, our DG Air Intelligence interrogated him, and he coincidentally, he was an Air Commodore, he is also ever since retired as an Air Marshal, and he had been Air Attaché in India, and he was a great friend of the father of Abhinandan, who was, he was an Air Commodore at that time.
All right.
So Abhinandan, when he interrogated, he said, well, I am in very deep trouble now because I have been shot down. So this Air Commodore, he told him, he said, son, don't worry, you have already been made a hero. So when you go there, you will go there with a hero's welcome. So now when he goes there, now Abhinandan never laid a claim to shooting an F-16 in Pakistan or ever in India. Number 2, Air Chief Marshal Dhanoa, who was the Chief of Air Staff, he flew probably his last mission as 4-star with Abhinandan in a dual MiG-21. So he marched with him to the aeroplane, he flew the mission, came back, and there was a media that was there, and it's very interesting. He never congratulated Abhinandan, he never spoke about it. So this was purely to save the day for themselves, to save face. And the present Air Chief, I must tell your viewers, he told some of us that he has, because this is how Pakistan Air Force gets ready for all the future contingencies. He said, boys, please understand, every time you will not get the same setup that you like. We had in our combat commander school that Air Marshal Aamir has commanded with brilliance. We had probably practiced this scenario that was presented to us on that particular day scores, if not hundreds of times, and we got that scenario. So our boys did very well. And he said, we may not have the same scenario every time that we like to have. So they also can surprise us. So we are being very humble about it. But that day we had the better of them. Hopefully with innovation, and you asked me a question, what for the future? I think Pakistan Air Force is ready for all missions. And we will talk about maybe Iran, what happened there. But even counter-terrorism, we have enough to stand ground, notwithstanding the political situation has to improve so that we can finally defeat the insurgents. But Pulwama, another false flag operation because elections are afoot, I think Pakistan Air Force can stand on its own and it can deal with any contingency.
All right, let's also talk about this Operation Bandar that happened on the 26th of February 2019, where the Indian Air Force cowardly, quote-unquote, attacked a target, a fictitious target which was never there on the ground. Payload was dropped in the mountains, killing some, crows and the trees. This is what, of course, was proven later as well. Only while the Indian media went into a war frenzy, terming it a surgical strike 2.0 and claiming that hundreds of terrorists had been killed. Pakistan, of course, we know, took the foreign and local media to Balakot, revealed the results of the so-called surgical strikes. But to date, India has yet to render any proof whatsoever whether a surgical strike was conducted at all. If it was conducted, where are the 300 plus casualties? I'd like to ask this question a couple of years down the lane so as to refresh the memory of those who are listening across the border.
Of course, the Indian media went into a frenzy, you are right. But if you recall, the opposition, which was the Congress, was asking some very difficult questions. And Republic TV in particular said, you, the enemies of India, this is the time that you should be backing up your Air Force and your military. But the fact is that on ground at Balakot, there was nothing to show. And I think the reason was that like we claim that we achieved our political and military ends, Modi's political end was achieved, and that was to win the elections. To showcase that, look, we have stayed below the nuclear threshold, we have dealt a serious blow to Pakistan's so-called alleged terrorism efforts, and we have secured India. And the Indian nation fell for it. They gave him a 2/3 majority. So the aim was not to win militarily. The aim was not, probably, if they could kill some so-called alleged people, terrorists, etc., would have been a boon. But the political end was that this should be showcased as a success, so that the nation is going to stand behind Modi, and they stood behind Modi. So, but the Congress asked some very difficult questions, to which Indian air marshals had no answer, the Indian media had no answer, and the Indian government had no answer. And obviously, like you said, the foreign, the dignitaries and attaches, corps, etc., they had all been taken to the spot, where there was a big, obviously, there was a big explosion there. But barring those few trees, etc., there was nothing over there.
I know that, but I just wanted to refresh the memories of all those who might have a different point of view as far as this operation is concerned. I'd like now to revert to my second guest, Air Marshal retired Aamir Masood Sahab. Sir, a pleasure to have you on board my show. I think it's the first time, and I'm seeing you after a long time as well. Nevertheless, I'd like to understand, as far as Operation Swift Retort is concerned, were there some tough decisions to make by the Pakistan Air Force at that time? Do you recall what happened that day? What was the resolve of the Pakistan Air Force? What was their motivation at that time?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you properly.
Okay. So I would say that the victory that PF achieved against IF in the air battle on 27 February was neither a surprise nor a coincidence. This should be very clear. While always thanking Almighty Allah for the divine help, undoubtedly PF over many years has maintained its optimum operational readiness and remained abreast of the evolving air power technologies, techniques, and tactics. And this was the legacy of the leadership of Air Marshal Akhtar Khan, Air Marshal Noor Khan, and till today, our leadership and the examples of bravery and professionalism set by Sarfaraz Rafiqi, Imam Alam, and many other aerial warriors in 65 and 71 wars, as well as by Noman and Hassan in Operation Swift Retort, has always made us proud. And I would say that the high standard set by them had become a benchmark for the men in blue. And well before 26 February, let me clarify this thing. The PF leadership had exactly foreseen the intentions of the enemy and prepared their response against IF adventures. That one mission on 27 February was a true reflection of PF's preparedness, confidence, and resolve to defend our area frontiers. And this single mission of Swift Retort was a shining example, especially in the modern conflict, of PF training standards and a display of how PF maintains ascendancy against numerically superior adversaries. So I would say that, subsequently what happened and the media rhetoric and all the cover-up story by the Indian media, still the IF chief humbly accepted his force deficiencies once he publicly admitted that Rafael presence would have turned the balance in their favor. So this was an admission of the defeat which they have experienced on 27th. And they have lost to a much smaller air force in an air battle where the elements of surprise and the concentration of force has been with them. To begin with, I would say that the 200 plus Su-30s and 60 plus Mirages, admittedly with the Air Force, with the Indian Air Force, have proved toothless against Pakistan Air Force few fighter jets. And so this brings to a question, very important, that had Indian leadership war game this action? And were they of any confusion in their ranks that Pakistan Air Force will not respond? So I'm a bit surprised that why did they did this sort of adventure, and the response they got, they knew that they're going to get this response, and it was a payback by the Pakistan Air Force in the same coin. So everybody has repeated it many times, but the fact is that international media has also accepted that India lost 2 fighter jets, which is MiG-21 and Su-30, and 1 Mi-17. And the important thing here is to see that Pakistan Air Force never claimed Mi-17. They said that it was a friendly fire because we believe in war ethics, in truth. And that is what we demonstrated, that we only claimed Su-30, which was shot by Squad Leader Hassan. At that time, he was Squad Leader, now he's Wing Commander. And the MiG-29, which was shot by Wing Commander Noman, who's now Marshal Air Commodore. So these are the kills which were verified by the international media. And we also believe that, we are like Iqbal Shaheen. And Shaheen जो है ना वो किसी का मारा हुआ शिकार नहीं करता, यहाँ अपने वो शिकार को नहीं खाता. So that is the reason that we never claimed that Mi-17, in which they lost, in fact, 6 of their airmen also. And their Abhinandan story, the fake story to make hero out of Abhinandan, has been, disowned by the international media. Christine Fair very clearly mentioned that Pakistan has the full number of F-16s which were there before 27, and that number there's no deficiency in that number. So, as you say, that the truth is the first casualty during any contingent. And, there's a very famous saying by the Churchill that in any war, the truth is the first contingency. And
that is true. That is so true. I think, a lot has been seen, a lot has been said, a lot has not been said as far as the truth, especially by our adversaries, is concerned about what happened vis-a-vis Operation Swift Retort. We've also been joined by Lieutenant General Raza Mohammad Khan Saab. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us. Pakistan, sir, has asked India to probe the Pulwama attack, share actionable evidence while assuring of Pakistan's cooperation in the matter. India to date has not shared any details of that probe into the Pulwama attack. And do you feel that the notion of these operations such as what happened in Pulwama and of course the Operation Bandar, does India always have this tendency to bolster its notion that these are true operations, when in fact these are false flag operations?
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I was just hearing you talking to your other participant, and we were talking about what is the role of truth in warfare. So I think India has been constantly avoiding to tell the truth on whatever happened in Pulwama and thereafter in Balakot, and it is yet to shame the devil. But I think the governor of Indian held Kashmir, Mr. Satyapal Malik, who, if you recall, I think a few months back, had very clearly stated that Pulwama was stage managed, and he repeated this 5 days back, and because of which right now there are multiple raids going on his residence, because the Modi government is not happy with the truth that he has been telling all around. But coming back, to what we have been saying, I think what happened in our response to the attacks on Balakot, which was clearly politically motivated to win elections in India, that response, our response, was a national response. It was a comprehensive response. It was a very timely response and an appropriate response. And I think it was appreciated by the whole world. Even, our gesture for the sake of peace to return the captured Indian pilot to India was, I think, appreciated by everyone. It also demonstrated, the resolve of the people of Pakistan, the armed forces and the government of Pakistan to go to any length and at any cost to defend the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Pakistan. And we again proved that, I think, on the 24th of January this year, when we were attacked by Iraq and Balochistan, and we responded in a similar manner. So deterrence, I think, in both the cases was re-established, which was very necessary in 2019 and then in 2024. And that is a lesson for all the adversaries of Pakistan. And I think in both the cases, Pakistan's will to establish or immediately to re-establish peace was also demonstrated, which was again, I think, appreciated by the whole world. But what Indians did, I think it was very reckless and very dangerous, because it could have escalated, to a full-fledged conventional war. And then when that had started, then I think it could have even led to a nuclear war, and the world understood that at that time. And therefore, I think the big powers immediately intervened. And I think the de-escalation then started. But I think the world should now recognize that Indian aggressions against Pakistan goes on in the form of, fifth generation warfare, when it is continuously destabilizing Pakistan and our political stability is at risk. And similarly, it is using now, mercenaries and murderers and paid killers to kill not only Pakistani citizens, but citizens of other countries also, once again, to prove that they are strong men, Modi is a strong man, and to win election once again.
All right. Well, kindly stay online with us. We'll revert to our guest in the studio, Air Marshal Masood Akhtar Sahab. Sir, in this day and age, you've referred to that as well, all-out nuclear conflagration is unthinkable. Why, in your point of view, are certain members of the Indian government or even the Indian media appearing to be in this whole no holds barred frenzy to stoke fires of hatred against Pakistan? How also does this crisis that happened in Pulwama and the Operation Banda and the Operation Swift Retort testify that India is also an irresponsible nuclear state?
Partly, I think this goes right back to partition. India till today has not reconciled with the creation of Pakistan, number one. Number two, if you recall, after they went nuclear, Advani, he threatened, he said, now we have gone nuclear, you better listen to us. Now this was umpteen number of times, but this was the final call by them that we can clobber you. Very fortunately, late Bhutto started the nuclear program. A.Q. Khan, Samar Mubarak Man, Ghulam Ishaq, Ziaul Haq, and everybody played a role, and we went nuclear. And so we established parity in terms of, so Indians are being highly irresponsible, but I think they've learned their lesson.
You feel so?
I told you that the Indian air chief and the Indian national security gurus, they made a claim that now they can stay below the nuclear threshold and conduct operations in the air. On ground, they had already done the alleged surgical strikes, which are not successful at all, and for which there is proof from us. And the Indians were, the opposition was again and again asking for proof, that what proof do you have in terms of night vision goggles and everything? Because now the proof, electronic proof is always there. Like the Sukhoi 30 that we shot down, For that, the electronic proof, and I will make a mention, because Air Marshal Aamir was in service and he's a very humble man. Believe me, what Siddiqui and Noman were today and what they are today, Aamir has a personal hand in honing them. He's commanded that base, he's commanded that school which has produced aces, and obviously there is a long history of values and tradition which we are upholding. Coming back to the question, India will continue to be irresponsible. For example, now that there are elections, there could yet be another political end to achieve for Modi, to start a false flag operation, unmindful that this could, and we are being very responsible. When the air chief said this operation better be calibrated, that means not more than what is essential damage has to be done. Proportionate. Whatever they did, we should not kill a single person. And we managed to do that. They did it at first light, we did it at 10 o'clock. So we went rather unconventional in terms of wisdom, but we proved to the Indians that air power wise, they are not able to challenge us. Probably this time the irresponsibility, if they do, I think, although the air power today, and Air Marshal Aamir will bear me out, is more prepared than ever for all contingencies, but they will attempt a thing like this, they will be irresponsible again, they could cause a false flag operation, but I think the Pakistan army is fully prepared, the Pakistan Navy, although they are not involved in these things, because more often than not this will happen in Kashmir, and of course a little south of that, Jammu, etc. And the Pakistan Army, Pakistan Air Force, they are fully prepared for any eventuality if they venture into any irresponsible act, and we will be able to face it. But what you have said is true. We will not be able to change the nature of BJP, Hindutva culture, but please understand that BJP manifesto is what it is, and BJP unfortunately is here to stay. The kind of economic progress that they are showing to their people, despite clobbering the Muslims and the Christians and the Dalits and all, and the likes, and the Sikhs also, I think the Modi government is here to stay.
All right.
Another election they are going to win.
Okay.
If not hands down, there will be a false flag operation. But I think the good news is that the Pakistani military is fully prepared to deal with any eventuality.
All right. Air Marshal Aamir Masood Saab, we are on the 5th anniversary of Operation Swift Retort. Looking back at an operation that you personally were part of, what have been the lessons learned?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think there are many lessons, but the thing which I would like to highlight, and partly it has been covered by Marshal Masood also, that the future wars are going to be, finalized on the basis of info operations. And this is one area where we have to concentrate. I mean, the whole victory in the field, in the air battle, was totally concocted by the Indian media, and a fake, rather a deep fake news was prepared to show Abhinandan as a hero. And ultimately, Modi resulted in winning the elections. And we can see in the Ukraine and Russian war also that info operations are very important, and they play a very key role in, the morale, motivation, and presenting the end game of any of the war. Secondly, I would like to say that modern technology are the way to go. And this is where Pakistan Air Force at present has really given a lot of importance. We are well prepared with new and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, cyber, space, etc. for real-time targeting. And this is going to play a very important role in any future air conflict. And remember, General Daktula, one of the practitioners and theorists of American Air Force, mentions that if a generation equipment is employed with a concept of second generation, then you will always end up losing. So what is important is once we fly or we procure fifth generation equipment, we have to change our concept and training according to that standards also. And this is what Pakistan Air Force is doing. And this has always been the high mark and the high, I would say, the main strength of Pakistan Air Force is the training. And we are now prepared than ever before with modern tools, techniques, and equipment. And lastly, I would say that our morale and motivation is much, better than ever before. The wedge which Indians have tried to create between our political and military leadership and the population, I would say that has not succeeded at all. And we are much more motivated, we are much more prepared, and we are much more eager to show our resolve in any of the future, engagements. And remember, lastly, I would like to add this thing, that, that as Air Marshal Masood has mentioned, and we have seen that our leadership response was very measured, very calibrated, very mature in the Swift Retort. But the Indians should not take it for granted that it is going to be the same in any future. They should remember that in case of any future contingency, we would like, or we may go asymmetric, and they will not have any face to cover with any of the fake news and fake, media stories. And that can be, not good for the countries, for the neighbors, but they should not take Pakistan Air Force and the Pakistan for granted by doing such sort of misadventures.
I think today is a very good reminder of that as well, just what you've rightly said. Air Marshal Aamir Masood Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Last question from you, Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab. Looking at India's past relations with Pakistan, its current relations with Pakistan, its rhetoric vis-a-vis Pakistan, why can't India accept the reality of what Pakistan stands for? Why always use false flag operations or the so-called quote-unquote Pakistan card to, to increase the vote bank or to create a completely different rhetoric in India that is far from reality?
Unfortunately, elections in India at multiple levels, they've always been Pakistan-centric, and their vote bank is pleased when they are told lies about Pakistan, and when Kashmiris are branded as terrorists, when the abolition of Article 370 is rationalized as political achievement. These were other reasons why the false flag operation of Pulwama was conducted, and thereafter Balakot was attacked. And unless Kashmir is resolved, either through bilateral negotiations or either through multilateralism, preferably through the UN Security Council resolutions, I think the dangers of recurrence of Pulwama will be there. And therefore, I think the international community, the world in general, the friends of India like the United States, Russia and others, they need to actually understand that unless the core issue of Kashmir is resolved, peace and security in Asia and in the subcontinent is going to be a far cry. And India will continue to misuse their armed forces for their political ambitions and for winning elections in their country. And I think the earlier the people of India, the media of India understands this also, the dangers which the BJP party is not only posing to other countries but also to itself. I think these dangers will continue to reign supreme. But I would say once again, what India is doing now against Pakistan in the form of sending terrorists here, in the form of making us politically unstable and trying, to use all means and methods to destabilize our country. I think that is a very, very dangerous kind of steps and actions
That
which
indeed
India
is a
needs to
dangerous
stop.
action, and a day I hope that India comes to its senses and does not resort to further such misadventures as it did on this very day in 2019, because as our eminent guests have said, that Pakistan is ready for whatever eventuality comes its way. Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Raza Muhammad Khan Sahab, to have joined us. Finally, if I had to ask you a one phrased answer to this question, do you feel the Pakistan Air Force meets the present national security challenges, and is it ready to measure up to all kinds of future challenges, some of which have also been enunciated by Air Marshal Aamir Masood Sahab?
I retired in 2006. One sentence, one phrase, Pakistan Air Force is 100% ready for all eventualities, all missions, and Iran operation against our insurgents is clear proof of again a single service application, be it air superiority, strategic strike, army support, maritime support, air mobility. Pakistan Air Force, this chief has put together all the arsenal for the next 10 to 15 years. The J-10 will continue to be superior to the Rafale with its radar and with its BVR, and the kind of UCAVs and UAVs that we have put together are available for all types of counter-terrorism missions. So the word is go.
All right, the word is go. Thank you very much, Air Marshal Masood Akhtar Sahab, to have joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a bit very short of time, but I would like to nevertheless wish for a truce during the holy month of Ramadan, as has been enunciated by Joe Biden recently. And I also wish, of course, Sweden all the very best for becoming eventually part of NATO, as the last hurdle has been removed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. May we always succeed in any and every operation. Pakistan Zindabad. Allah Hafiz.